So if I feel a certain kind of way about saying no, or there's a certain kind of guilt about saying no, then I'm going to probably keep saying yes because I haven't worked out the shame that I feel, or me feeling like a bad family member or a bad person because I declined your request. And a lot of times we start with the first responder mindset of you called me, so you must need it. I am your first resort. You don't have anybody else. And we jump straight to that, which is why we probably overextend ourselves quite a bit.
Well, hello, everyone, and I am so excited to welcome you to another episode of the Thank Me Later show, where we help you master your money and transform your life. And listen, y'all, we're going to get some mastery and we're going to learn how to transform our relationships and money. And I have to admit, I am super excited about it. As long as I have been in media, as long as I have talked about money and taught about money, this is the first time that I've ever had this conversation about money and relationships. So, of course, we have a special guest that I want to introduce to you, who is going to be leading us and helping us to navigate this whole topic of money and relationships. So, everybody, please let's have a warm welcome to Dr. Cherlisa Jackson. Hello, Dr. Jackson.
Hello there.
I am so happy that you're here. Welcome. So I want to take a minute and brag about you a little bit before we Dr. Jackson said, go ahead, girl, brag about me. So Dr. Jackson, again, first of all, thank you for coming. Really appreciate you being here to talk about something that impacts almost every aspect of our lives, money and how it impacts all these amazing relationships that we have, right?
Absolutely.
So Dr. Jackson is a licensed professional counselor, nationally certified with a Master's of Arts in Counseling and Guidance. This bad chick has a PhD in health, education, and promotion. She has her own practice, which is where she focuses on sexual health, education, esteem, and relationships. So that's SHEER, SHEER for short, which is located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Of course, y'all can just go ahead and look her up. But I'm so proud of the work that she really focuses on self-esteem. And I really appreciate that because clearly that's at the core of everything. Like you can get that right. Like you out here winning when you can get that right. Her podcast is called Even Me, and her book is called Empowering the Broken. So again, thank you for being here and so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for the introduction.
So, it's interesting, when we talk about money and relationships, there's so many dynamic relationships that we have. We have siblings and parents and young children, parents and adults. There's this whole family nucleus. I know a lot of times we focus on the intimate relationships. So right now we're really going to focus on these other close family relationships that we have and the complexity that money can bring. So I just kind of want to set the scene for you a little bit, Dr. Jackson.
Sure.
So it says that about 60% of Americans have helped out a friend or family member by lending them money. At least I'm surprised the number's not higher than that.
Right.
And we just think about when you're the one that people always run to, or maybe you're the one that people that you're the one running to folks, how the impact that can have on you personally, but the person that you're in an intimate relationship with, other people in the family, like it can get really complicated really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna jump right in, and I have some. Let's go, girl. We're gonna jump. Let's jump. So, what are some common challenges that you've seen people have when setting financial boundaries?
Loaded question.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the question. One thing you mentioned that I know is a big part of it is esteem. And that's the reason that it is connected to the practice so much, because esteem is the center of everything. So how you feel about yourself determines your decision making. Right. So a lot of times if you're trying to fill a void or you're afraid of people disappointing you some sort of way, it's going to impact what you do. So when it comes to your relationships and not wanting to disappoint others, then finances are a part of that. So if I feel a certain kind of way about saying no, or there's a certain kind of guilt about saying no, then I'm going to probably keep saying yes because I haven't worked out the shame that I feel, or me feeling like a bad family member or a
Right.
bad person because I declined your request.
Right.
And a lot of times we start with the first responder mindset of you called me, so you must need it.
Of course.
I am your first resort. You don't have anybody else. And we jump straight to that,
Right.
which is why we probably overextend ourselves quite a bit. So
Right.
I know that a big part of that is how you feel about what it is that you're doing. So if you feel guilty about saying no, then the boundary part goes with it. So when it comes to the challenges, one of them is how you feel about yourself. And if you do not have a certain sense of yourself, then it impacts your boundaries of being able to say no. So,
But Dr. Jackson, just even hearing you say that, I wouldn't even immediately think that I would have to start with myself.
right.
Because it's like this other person, they ask, not assessing myself. Like, am I coming from a place of guilt? Obligation, whatever it is. And I'm bringing that to this exchange, this conversation versus, objectively looking at it. Oh, this is my sibling. This is my cousin. This is my child who needs X. I'm carrying all of that baggage, feeling like Erykah Badu, kind of like that bag lady-ish. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. So after you've kind of self-assessed, how can you begin to set boundaries if this is something that's completely new to you?
That's a good question. So the thing that, again, starting with yourself. So if it is actually assessing first, I am in need of setting a boundary with me. Why do I keep saying yes? Why do I not know that no is a final sentence? It's a finished, complete
Period.
Right. So if I'm not aware of that, or I don't take the time to understand that, then it's going to be really hard for me to even do the internal work. All of our problems are external facing. So we like to blame and project because we don't understand. And in terms of fear or in spaces of uncertainty, it's easier to external face. So when you have to actually start with, this is new, I'm not really sure, then it's working on, I probably feel guilty for the family dynamics of the things that everybody else has been doing, or this is what they've told me I need to do, or these are parts of me that feel more complete if I say yes because I'm feeling something. We have it really bad. I can't say for those numbers if they're incorporating Black Americans or anyone that identifies with that at all, but I know that it's higher because there's a whole lot of individuals that have spiritual shame. And we have a whole lot of family dynamics and generational patterns and pain that come from when we have said no. Let me give you the shirt off my back. Let me make sure that you have everything that you need all the time. So if you need to sleep on my couch, you can have it. If you need to have anything that I have, if I feel like it's accessible to me, then I'm going to give it to you. And that's, again, upbringing, ways in which we've been raised. So a lot of times when it's new, we don't know it's new because it's something that has been passed down as what we're supposed to do.
The other thing that I hear you saying is I can envision like that whole Superman, Superwoman syndrome, because the high that some people can get for being able to help solve the problem. Let me jump in. Let me help. Let me fix. They're calling me because it gives you some sort of validation of some sort as well. So I guess you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that part of this makes you feel good that people may that depend upon you.
A word.
Word.
That is it, because we don't know how to take breaks. Essentially, in every culture, literally, but in American culture, we even eat lunch on our break. So we are part of that, but we're also working on our break. So not only is that a part of what we do, we don't know how to take the break to just be in the moment. So everything about actually taking the break means that if I take a step back and I'm not performance-based, then I don't know who I am. So I feel guilty for having inactivity. I feel guilty when I'm not producing. So some of that does mean, yes, I'm going to have to actually say no because it is in the interest of my self-care. But if we don't know what self-care is, and we don't start with that, then we won't know how to tackle something new and being able to just say what that means.
So can we talk about what some healthy financial boundaries could look like? So when I say that out loud, like what are you thinking?
So the one thing that comes to mind first is being able to first know what your capacity is, and actually assessing budgeting and things that need maybe a possible financial advisor, or who is it that ends up tackling most of these issues with me all the time. So if I have a partner, I have a counterpart, and I actually listen to this person, then we probably have a good budgeting understanding relationship, there's that. But if I'm not honored or understood in certain spaces and I have a person that really doesn't listen to me, then I might start to project a certain kind of way, or I might start to dictate a certain kind of way because
hide.
Hide. Yes,
doing.
exactly.
Right.
Because there isn't a certain kind of trust. So trust is at the meat of it. Trust is whether you trust yourself or do you actually trust this person. One of the biggest things in relationships is you don't have access to that because I don't trust you. But I'll lie next to you in bed. I'll have your kids. I'll cook for you. All things that require trust. But no, you can't look at my phone, and no, you can't look at my accounts.
Right.
What kind of trust are you building? Because
Right.
there's limits to what you're trusting when it's not about trusting the person and having the best interest in that space. So, yeah.
You know, when I heard you mention something about assessing like what you can do, and I just immediately kept thinking, like, what is that commitment that you can do? And so as I'm talking to all of you, to me, that is step number one too. It's like, hey, based on me living my life, what it costs for me to be who I am, I can allocate X amount per week, per month, per year to help. This is my help whomever fund. When this money is gone, whether it's one transaction or 50 over the year, it's over.
Yes.
And I think being able to not only make that decision, but also articulate that to the people who are continuing to knock at the door, you know, asking. Mm-hmm. You know, there has to be a beginning and an end. And for people to think that the faucet is always on, that's unrealistic anyway. Yeah. I'm like, what are we doing here? You know, that's not possible.
That is a great point that you bring up. And the one thing that I typically see when it comes to parents and their children. So a person that feels like, well, you don't have that kind of start. Let me make sure that I enable this start for you.
Right.
But it doesn't really teach the crutch. It doesn't teach the natural consequences because we're continuing to save this person.
Right.
And we don't want them to hit a certain kind of wall. And so when it comes to relationships specifically with what you're saying, that if you do not have a cap, then you're going to overextend because you're going to think that's what showing up for someone looks like.
Right.
Let me make sure that I give you exactly what I have so we can have equality. But the equity part of it is recognizing, well, what does this person need to learn so that they don't have to keep coming
back?
Yeah.
Right. Other thing I hear you saying is, like, what questions do I need to be asking myself before I say yes? Mm-hmm. You know, because I think a lot of times we want to, you know, immediately fix the problem. Here we go with that Cash App, the Zelle, and voila, magically it's gone, versus saying, hey, I need to call you back. Mm-hmm. What are your 3 or 5 questions that you need to be asking yourself to determine if this is a yes or a no?
That's right.
Because sometimes it's going to be a yes and sometimes it's going to be a no.
That's right.
I think that's empowering, though. You know what I mean? And it might be hard at first, but you might be able to get pretty good at, you know, saying that no.
Yeah.
Another question for you. What are some red flags? So this is not really in the context of an intimate relationship, but again, it can be any sort of family relationship. That how do you know that the financial boundaries aren't being respected? Like what is kind of like that ding, 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 ding moment for you to know that? Yeah.
It's a great question because it's for all relationships and it's a lack of change behavior. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when we're implementing rules or expectations or certain things, you have a right to tell me no. You have a right to say, I don't like your expectations. I don't like your plans. I don't like your outcomes. And we have this thought that just because I've said it and I've planned for it, this other person's going to do it.
Right.
And the red flag is, well, if I tell it to you and I'm looking for change and you're not promoting change, but you still want access to me, then that's a big part of me saying you don't understand or that you're not really fully executing what would help this connection. And so for every single relationship, especially when it comes to finances, if you really aren't trying to save money and you know that you need this, but you keep coming to me for rent, but you're spending it on iPhones, you're showing me that you really don't have the capacity to really want to change differently. Right. You know that I'm going to save you. You know you can call me. You know, again, that I'm your first resort. And we teach she'll do it.
Right.
She'll find a way. Right. She's going to do it for me. So that's a huge red flag is that having change behavior. Yeah.
You know, hearing you say that, you're just making me think about a family situation. So I was having a discussion with a relative and they were telling me about another younger relative who, I can't name all of the concerts that this young person has recently been to. Like, got on a plane, flew out of state, spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on tickets to go to a concert several times, but always needs money for something. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So I see the enabling. I'm just like, what is happening here? Am I the only one that's like, this math is not mathing? Like, how can they afford to do that? But they're constantly asking you for money.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting them accustomed to a lifestyle that they cannot afford on their own.
That part.
I'm just like, so when you see people doing that, like, kind of what's an initial step? Because obviously we have the enabler is to me is the main issue, not the person who's asking for the money. What's kind of their first step to kind of acknowledge that and then take the appropriate action?
You have to want to change. I think that's the other thing that you see when people come into counseling and they're dragging a partner with them.
Right.
That person's not really there yet. They don't personally want that same change that you do because you're dragging them in. They're not saying, you know what, this would be a really good idea. I see the error of my ways, or I hear what you're saying. I absolutely want that to take place. Let me go ahead and put actionable steps where you can see that I want this. Instead, I'm dragging you to want to do differently. So a lot of the time, most of us we're definitely a part of this journey to make this other person see what we want for them, but we're falling in love with this potential of what they can be when we want it more than they do. So a lot of times we're not really asking them what it is that you want.
Right.
So if I actually pull you in and I say, okay, well, this is a part of what I know could produce better growth for you, you still have to want that. You gotta want it. And so if I definitely could be giving suggestions about certain things that you could be doing, and I could be seeing, look at my finances, look at how I'm budgeting things. And this person still could say, I don't want that for myself.
Right.
And we have to then take acceptance and saying, they want differently than I want for them.
That's their choice.
That's their whole choice to do it that way. And a lot of times what we do is we're trying to save people because we see that we want better for them, and we know that they can do better, and we know that if they just had this push or if they had this assistance, because they come to you and they ask you, there's a certain kind of weakness that we have to start with, and saying the no is the starting point. So if I can't say no to them, it doesn't matter what they're changing or adjusting, because they know they still have access to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And and it's funny just to hear you say that. And this is going to be difficult for people because the helper, they just want to blame it on the person that's coming back for needing the help. But it's really, you're the problem helping too much. You're helping too much. Oh, that's going to be painful.
Yeah.
All right. Now this one, I see this all the time, Dr. Jackson. This is the big thing. These adults with these young adult children. And I'm like, at what point do we kind of start cutting these purse strings here and beginning to create some separation? And I think the statistic is, on average now, parents are helping their young adult children through like age 32 or 33 now. I don't know how that's sustainable. Yeah, I don't know. I'm meeting too many people who can't retire. You can't go on vacation. You can't remodel your kitchen. You can't because of how much you're helping financially supporting your young adult child. So when you hear me say that, so what are you thinking? I'm curious about it from your perspective.
A few things come to mind, and specifically some clients that I have had conversations with is they feel like they're a bad parent because they say no. So the thing that, again, culturally we've been taught is give it if you have it. These are your kids. Do everything. Turn inward. Be vicariously through them. Helicopter over them to make sure that you can make sure, literally, that everything they do, you have some sort of input, you have some sort of nurturing. You may not be a good parent if you don't do that. And so again, if it's culturally, we've been taught that. We've been taught that it has to look this way. And so there's a certain level of guilt. It always starts with the guilt of how you feel if you disappoint your children and saying no. It's literally connected to that. So a lot of times when I'm talking to clients and they're saying, I feel really bad because I know this person's asking me. My child absolutely wants this. I know I have it. I know I could say yes. They don't have a job right now, or the industry's a certain kind of way. And so I'm going to rescue them. I'm going to save them. But it's not your job to make sure that the economy is better. And there are different things that you can do in place to make sure that this person is budgeting for when the economy does shift or pivot. Do we teach sustainability? A lot of times we're rescuing So we have a good understanding of rescue,
Right.
but we don't have that strong understanding of it's going to be okay if they have to hit that wall.
Right.
They have to learn certain things that I personally can't save them from. I want more for them than they want for themselves. And can I handle it if they do something different than I've raised them to do, or if it's different than my expectations? And we have to get okay with that first before we keep helping and saying, this is what's helping them because I'm giving them the money. You actually might be disabling them from being able to understand their connection with money. There's a verse, it's in a song, all I can think of is Jay-Z saying that we understand the amount and the understanding of like dollars and cents, but we really don't understand the value of things. So we absolutely know how much stuff costs.
Right.
We know how much stuff can be. We go and we look at a dollar amount, but the value of it is your own time, your own passion, your own attention to it.
Which is different than the dollar amount.
Very different.
Right.
And we get stuck there by saying, well, the current situation in the world is going this way, so I have to save everybody from falling flat. And if I have it, then I'd rather them be in my care doing well than trying to struggle on their own. Because what we're doing is changing the idea of struggle and it now being us saving someone from struggling. But that struggle is part of what has made most of us have a good understanding with money.
For sure. I want you to go back to something you just said about, what did you say about something about being sustainable versus... What was the other point? Because you were saying that we are not teaching them essentially to be sustainable. We're helping too much. I'm trying to figure. What was that word that you said?
Yes. Well, I not really sure the train of thought that I was going. But the sustainability, yes, that absolutely is important because we personally, even if we're helping, that doesn't mean that we have good financial literacy.
Right.
So just because I am helping you to continue staying on my couch or getting a certain kind of money doesn't mean that I understand my own literacy or how much I'm hurting myself.
Right.
So that harming versus hurting conversation literally is, you know, I'm hurting me and I'm harming you because I'm not really addressing the issue. The issue is that this isn't changing.
The real issue.
Yeah.
The issue really isn't about the money.
Correct.
Right.
It's about the habit.
It's about the
sustainability.
Right.
Right.
Ooh, that's deep. Oh my gosh, that's deep. All right. So I'm getting ready to transition us. Okay. I want to share a couple of resources and then we are going to, I have a question from you. Of course, we had some folks submit some questions for you in advance, but I'm so excited about this conversation. I'm over here like, ooh, I think I have a couple changes I need to make too. All right, a couple of resources for you all just to help you on this mental, psychological, emotional journey that you're on as it relates to finances is you can certainly engage with us in the Thank Me Later community. We have an amazing episode that we did about love and money that's going to help you a lot. It's more so on about intimate relationships, but I'm sure you could apply it to relationships in general. Dr. Jackson's book is available on Amazon, Empowering the Broken. So please check that out. And then her podcast, Even Me. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Ooh, how much you want to know?
Tell us, girl.
Well, essentially, Even Me started out with I'm a clinician, as we know, and a lot of times we separate ourselves quite a bit to feel like we're the expert always and that we don't struggle with things. And so I absolutely wanted to make a centralized view of this happens to all of us, and even therapists need therapists. Even people who are experts in something or do really well to be certified in something don't just become the expert for the rest of their lives. They're the expert for now. I'm good for 2024. Right. I know exactly what may have happened in habits and things that we've been researching. Right. But for the next few years, I'm still going to have to stay up on things.
Right.
Still going to have to keep my habits. Still going to have accountability because I'm leading people with that. So if I'm teaching you about something that I'm struggling with, be no different if we were talking about finances and here I am struggling to even understand what to do with my own.
Right.
Or I have the exact same barriers that individuals are going through, but I'm not addressing anything.
Right.
So I wanted to create a podcast for individuals to be able to connect and see self-esteem literally impacts all of your relationships and all of your sexual decisions. So when you come into contact with everything romantically, partnership, friendships, work relationships, everything that's trauma-based, things that you really don't understand your personal self-worth absolutely attaches to, that's what I wanted to create. So I'm helping
Right.
But I'm also kind of healing in the same process of making sure that I can speak from wisdom. Because if I cannot do that, then I don't need to be anybody's clinician.
Right. Right. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
All right. We have a question that was submitted on the Thank Me Later hotline that I want to share with you. This person is anonymous. And the question is, I'm the person that everybody comes to in my family to ask for money or support or some type of help. It started small at first, but now it's all the time. What is the best way to establish the boundary of saying no without the family all saying that I'm acting like I'm too good?
Ooh,
Yeah, I'm too
fantastic
good.
question.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
good
too
question.
good.
Anytime you adjust what you've already been doing, there's going to be ripples because you are setting a new standard of something where people haven't ever heard you say no.
And they liked it the other way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You go and start shifting it,
Right.
you're going to hear that. So it may not just be that the saying no is the issue.
Right.
It's actually becoming okay with individuals learning that this is who you have transitioned yourself into being. You have now elevated here. You're
Right.
now interested in this. And so it's actually getting people on board with why do you come with to me? Why is there never a resolve that you choose to seek maybe someone else? Is it that it's just easier to access me?
Right.
So when it comes to really setting in motion, I can't say that I don't need a boundary just because people won't like it. That's the hardest part about setting them, is that we're upset when others don't like our boundaries. And so then we take them away. We put our foot down a little bit, but then we lift it up every now and then. We're not serious. So to help someone know that you're serious.
And they know that.
Yeah, they know it.
They
and
know
that's
it.
exactly why they keep coming, because
Right.
they know you're not serious.
Right.
So if I keep saying, oh, I'm done, but then I keep taking your calls.
Right.
And I keep saying, oh, I'm not giving you anything anymore.
Right.
Then I bend after call 42.
Right.
Then I know that all it takes is enough kind of pushing, enough kind of convincing, and your boundaries aren't real. So if you set them in motion to really say, I'm going to disappoint some people,
Yeah.
and make ownership that I'm going to disappoint people, but do I need to keep disappointing myself when I already don't want to pick up this phone? Every time I give this money, I feel bad. Every time I say yes and I don't want to, I feel a certain kind of way. So we're really letting yourself down when we should be worrying about that first.
Right. Right. I don't know where I got this saying from, but someone shared this with me. At the end of the day, someone is going to be mad, and it's not going to be me.
Hey,
You know, and that's okay. You
that's
know,
okay.
and that's okay. But you've got to protect yourself first,
right.
and to know that you're really hurting them and not helping them. Maybe it will help people make the right decision and make some different decisions here.
That's right.
All right, I've got some more questions for you.
Sure.
So this is now we're kind of going down the road of friendships and dating, relationships and money. So are there any red flags or warning signs that we should be paying attention to when it comes to knowing if we're compatible with somebody financially when we're dating?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is the number one issue that comes in when we're now in a culture of everybody wanting relationships that their grandparents had,
Right.
or that our parents had, or anyone where we say we want it traditionally. But the thing we miss is that women make more money now. And more opportunities exist where equity is on the table. So we keep saying we want it to look a certain kind of way with our friendships and our opportunities, but we're not moving with the times. We're just creating the habits and the patterns and the templates that have us feel comfortable. So we have continued to adjust to what we say other people did, and we like that view, but then we look at the reality of it and we say, you know what, I can't be a stay-at-home mom because I got 6 degrees. Or there's a whole lot of other different things that I do a certain kind of way where now I'm the breadwinner. So when you're dating someone, you have to start with, where are you going? Where do you see yourself going versus where are we at right now? Because if I date you for where I'm at, but my ambition says I'm going to be over here in a year, then I'm not really in the position to date you.
Right.
It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you specifically, but it does mean that you don't match where I'm going.
Right.
And that's a lot of stuff that we don't really take into account when we are dating or making friendships with people. That's where the envy comes in, because you now can't hear that I'm winning every week.
Right.
Because it's threatening you and how you feel about what your achievements are. And when we look on social media and we compare ourselves all the time, that's the main measure that we're using about whether or not we're doing a good job. So a lot of times when we're in these relationships and we're in these friendships, we're trying so hard to make sure, oh, you have what I have and you want to do what I do. But I might be doing something that you've never thought of.
Right.
And I might be excelling higher than you. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. And
Do
and are
you
we
know?
even going in the same to the same place? Are we going, to the same destination?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So I guess I'm wondering, like, are you paying attention to certain behaviors? Are you paying attention to their family?
Yeah.
You know, like what are you doing? Because I'm sure part of it obviously is having this discussion. There's, certainly there has to be a certain level of transparency too. Like, ooh, this is what I have going on. You know, I have $100,000 in school loans. What you got going on? You know, just kind of show me yours. I'll show you mine. But I guess you're also just, you know, knowing their values, you know, how responsible are they with money? Because, you know, people show you who they are. You need to believe them.
That part right there is actually looking at what is shown to you. We don't know when a representative is going to pop out. We could say that we're going to be ourselves all the time, but there's a part of you that's protected when you show up as someone that's familiar to you. So it may be a representative sometimes for someone that you don't have a certain level of trust with or a certain level of established anything with. So yeah, when you're talking to me, I need to be watching how you respond to my goals. I need to be watching how you respond to my boundaries. I need to be asking if you have any kind of understanding of your own financial literacy, or what do you think of with people who have a bunch of ambition? Is that what you see? Is that something that is on the radar for you to want in your own life? Because some people are very threatened by success. Not everybody wants to own their own business. Right. Not everybody wants to be a CEO. Some individuals are like, I like my life like this, and we can't make people feel bad because that's what they want. Right. That's a part of what they can maintain. That's a part of what they can sustain. So a lot of times we're pushing people to want more than what they can sustain because we're like, I see that in you. I want that for us. I want that for me. But we're not really actually assessing what it is. So I have to ask you first, how far do you want to go? Right. You know, and a lot of times we're looking at the compatibility in a positive way, and we're saying, you like to do this, I like to do this, but I'm not actually looking at the negative compatibility. A lot of times when we're talking to someone, it could be friends, it could be partners, doesn't matter, but I'm looking at all of these great things, but I'm not seeing all of the ways in which I need to change. But most of your strongest advice comes from stuff that you're currently working on. You just can't see it. So a lot of times, like, I hate when you do that. I don't like when you do that. It's probably because I'm not really looking at the fact that I do it too. Right. And that there's a lot of ways in which I might be inconsiderate, or I cut people off when I'm talking, and I'm not really looking at that. So I have to be looking at that and first also do an assessment with me to make sure that I can even ask you those questions. If I've done no self-exploration, I won't even see that coming. So it's not that you can catch it all. You're not going to be able to catch it all. Right. But you are going to have to ask some targeted questions about where are we going? For sure. And when I meet you, you may not know that that's with me. So one of our biggest mistakes when we meet people is to figure out what they want with us. You don't know that yet. We haven't established that. So if I sit you down on our first date and I say, what do you want with me? I don't know. Right. We'll see how this date goes. And
how it goes first. Right.
My answer today might be different than in 3 months. Right. But for real, it's looking at how have I actually assessed this person in front of me? Do I just like you? And I'm driven off the chemistry and all of the ways that can take us somewhere. Okay. Or do I really feel like we're a compatible match in order to go where I'm going?
Where I'm going. Mm-hmm. So, based on what you just said about, you know, women having this new independence and new level of success and financial freedom, how can couples create that healthy balance between independence and the intersection of interdependence? Because, you know, like, ooh, we're together, certain things are together, certain things aren't together. Like, how does that happen?
Number one issue in couple sessions or people that talk about their relationships is not knowing space is healthy. Mm-hmm. People genuinely think we get married, we spend every minute together.
Every minute together, David? Every minute. That's my husband I'm talking to off camera, who's sort of smiling right now. every minute, babe, every minute. You want a microphone?
But to your point, that's when you become that empty nester, you don't know yourself anymore. You also don't know this person because you're not actually asking a certain level of yourself to join the conversation, to continue to grow as yourself. Right. So a lot of times we miss that. We date, we ask for these expensive moments and all sorts of lavish treatment that we do on the front end that we can't sustain when we're actually together. How many times do you go into Sizzler and all these amazing, I'm Sizzler, I'm dating myself, my goodness. But,
girl, not Sizzler.
How many times are you going to somewhere that's really expensive?
Oh my God. Sizzler's expensive, David. My husband is dying off camera right now. Thank you for that moment. Oh, Dave, you remember the last time we were in Sizzler? We were in LA. You remember that? We'll talk about that. Yeah. That's the last time we were there. Go ahead, Dr. Jackson. I'm sorry.
No, this is a great point because we constantly layer it on the front end. So then when it comes to sustainability and it comes to this point of us actually getting to know each other, we don't know each other.
Right.
So actually building from something that's sustainable and starting that way. I hope I'm still on target to your question.
Yeah. No, you are, because I'm just thinking about it as a married person, just having that balance of having financial independence, but also having that interdependence as well. And I'm up here thinking, how did we get here? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we intentionally sought out to get here, or if we just over time and doing the work and both of us willing to make some adjustments, but also respecting the fact that we knew that, we were going to certainly have some things financially together, but based on our personalities, we had to have things separate too, and it not be a problem.
Right.
Like, what you got going on over there? No, like, I respect the fact, he needs to have some independence. I have to have some independence too, but we are working together to get, like you said, where are we going to go here too? That's right. But I don't know if we intentionally did it though. I'm not sure about that.
And it's okay if you didn't.
Right.
I think the one thing that I'm learning now is that marriage itself, relationships themselves are not just about doing every single thing together.
Right.
Being exactly alike. It's
right.
to think together. It's to move together as a unit. It's to become partners.
Right.
And a lot of times when we're talking about independence, we're like, what do you need space for?
Right.
Why do you need to have other friends?
Yeah.
Why do you need to go over there? You should, because
please do. Right.
I need to know you.
Right.
I don't want to know who I'm shaping you into.
Right.
I don't want to be just with a person that only works well with me.
Right.
Because when I leave town or if I start to do my other stuff, you don't have another decompression tool.
Right.
You don't have any other search for yourself.
Right.
We only go with things that I make very well aware that you need to work on. That's not going to be a healthy relationship. And over time, you're going to end up with a person who becomes what you want them to be. But then when you want to take a break, you want to take a step back, and you want them to now be self-motivated, you didn't create that space. You had it, this is my way, do it this way. And then when you want a moment to say, well, I thought you were going to take the hint and follow this, it's not coming from a place of them learning and staying attached to their independence. Right. So it's extremely important for all relationships that if you start with a friendship space or you become friends or you know what that even looks like to be partners, then it won't feel so offensive to work together. So whenever you do have a moment of interdependence, it won't be codependency. It's not going to be, I have to have you. Right. I need you for self-sufficiency. It's, I need things. But the person itself, you are not the reason that I sustain myself. And so that's a big part of what we don't teach.
Right.
We just jump into, I like you, we have feelings, let's be together, now we're married. And there's no, man, let me make sure that you even understand how to keep your own identity so that I'm having a relationship with a person who still knows himself or themselves. Yeah. So that's a big part of what would actually stop us becoming more codependent in certain interdependent spaces, or even financially being able to connect our money and feel like I can trust you is because I trust myself. I know you trust you, right, and you take time to continue to build with you.
Right.
You don't take that time, we can't work as a team, right, because you're still going to have to offer in this 3-legged race. You need your own leg. I need my leg, and we share a leg. But if you just say, well, you know what, you like blue, I like red, and just for the sake of keeping the peace, I'm just going to start to like blue. We don't even worry about purple.
Right.
Well, how are we working as a team? And every single thing about interdependence is I'm going to sacrifice what I want just to keep you. Right. But I don't even know if I'm happy anymore. Right. So over time, what you'll see is relationships where there's one person who's absolutely unhappy and totally dissatisfied, and someone else who is guiding the relationship because that's what they wanted. So now this relationship is from expectations of what you saw this person becoming. So now you've fallen in love with the potential of where it can go, and you become dependent on that. Right. We're not even interested in the person anymore. We're interested in what you need to do to keep my interest. It's not the same thing.
Right. And money will only complicate that even more.
Money only complicates it.
It's even more.
Absolutely.
Ooh, this has been a lot today, a lot to process, a lot to think about, but a healthy beginning though. You know what I mean? Because you have to start somewhere, kind of weeding through all this and doing your first self-assessment and to get ready to do your own work before you can have impact on any of these relationships. I love that. Right. So as we get ready to close, we we're called Thank Me Later, and we always want to know what people's Thank Me Later tips are. So I want you to finish this sentence for me. If you blank, you will thank me later. If you what?
Self-prioritize.
If you self-prioritize. Did y'all heard Dr. Jackson? If y'all self-prioritize, you will thank her later. I think they will for sure.
You will.
Yeah, they will for sure. Now, Thank Me Later, we are centered and really rooted in leaving a legacy. So when I say leaving a legacy, what does that mean to you?
Knowing yourself enough to know what you're leaving. You don't know you. What are you leaving behind?
What are you leaving behind? Wow. That's why some people aren't really leaving too much of anything because they don't know what's going on.
That's it.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about action steps, call to action. So kind of what are your next steps as we're processing money and relationships and the complexity of all that? And please feel free, Dr. Jackson, to add anything. So one thing that I strongly suggest is you need to, on a regular basis, on a schedule, have intentional money meetings with yourself first. You don't just squeeze money in when you feel like it, when it's convenient, 2:00 on a Sunday. Next time it's 10 p.m. on a Thursday. Like intentionally do that so you all can build that rhythm and that habit. So please do that. Dr. Jackson talked about knowing where you're going. Like what are your goals? Like where are you going personally? And then in any of this relationship that you have, you want to get some clarity on that. And then also taking that own, you talked about the personal assessment, but that financial assessment as well. Anything that you want to add as far as next steps?
That was fabulous.
Thank you, girl. Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you. And resources again to help. You can go into the Thank Me Later community and you can engage in our content with love and relationships. You can also, we have a whole money guide for couples too that you can download and take a look at. Dr. Jackson's book is on Amazon, Empowering the Broken. Okay. So you can check that out. And of course, her podcast, Even Me, is streaming across all platforms, correct?
It surely is.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I love that. And then of course, you all, you know that you can continue to engage in all of our content here and on social media at TML Money. For me directly at Jini Thornton, please make sure that you like and subscribe our content. Woo, y'all, I think I have covered it all. So thank you again for listening to and tuning into the Thank Me Later show, where we help you master your money and transform your life. We will see you next episode.